Who'd like to start? How about back there at the table? Please identify yourself, and we'll go to Admiral Blair, then back to this other table here.
Richard Weitz, the Hudson Institute. What do you envision as Russia's role in this framework? As you know, the Russians have been in, and then they've been out, and they've been in again in the East Asian security and economic constellation. So I wasn't sure what was the vision of the administration for this.
You mean in their role in the six-party process generally, or?
More generally,
Yeah, okay.
energy and basically the issues that concern the administration most.
Yeah. First of all, I think Russia has an aspiration to take a direct interest in the issues of Northeast Asia. I mean, Russia would very much like to develop its Far East, and to do that, it needs to improve its relations in the region. Obviously, it has some tough bilateral issues. For example, with Japan, it's had territorial issues for many decades stemming from World War II. But I think Russia very much wants to improve relations with all those states. They have developed relationships with South Korea, which are only some 20 years old, but they are very much developing. They're looking for South Korean investment in the Russian Far East, and that's actually forthcoming. I think they would like to develop their energy production and have it accessible to Northeast Asia. So I think from an economic point of view, Russia has a clear interest there. Russia has absolutely no interest in seeing North Korea develop nuclear weapons. They know the danger of that. They know the proliferation concerns of it. They know that the fact that if North Korea were allowed to get away with this, other countries might be tempted to follow North Korea. Russia has absolutely no interest in that. With respect to the six parties, Russia has some special capabilities to deal with denuclearization. They know how to do it. They know how to handle fissile material. We have worked with Russia for many years on our own bilateral arms control efforts. So I think we look for Russia to play a very important role as we get on to the phase of dismantlement, dismantling of these facilities and ultimately abandoning the fissile material. So we see Russia playing a very important role there. They're already playing an important role in terms of developing this multilateral structure. And so, to be sure, I'm not underestimating the difficulties, the problems we have with Russia globally, but I would like to think that what we're doing in the six parties is on the positive side of the ledger of U.S.-Russian relations.
Okay. And then we'll go back to the people back there.
Yeah, Mr. Ambassador, from the point of view of the agenda for the six-party talks, if you look at those six parties, there are a series of unresolved island disputes that keep popping up and nagging relationships among them. The Kurils, the one off between Korea and Japan whose name I can't pronounce, the one between China and Japan.
The one you dare not pronounce.
Right. That's a good. But the other thing that always struck me, back when I was in office, I would say, well, tell me what's important about these islands. And I'd look at satellite pictures of them, and I'd look at and these are rocks. I mean, there is nothing inherently important about any of them. They're important. All has to do with symbolism, with economic claims, and with territorial claims. And it strikes me what a wonderful actual accomplishment it would be, not to mention a setting of momentum in Asia that we can solve these problems. If there were to be sort of a quiet sort of, we've had a code of conduct in the South China Sea. I mean, we've had mutual exploitation regimes in the Gulf of Thailand for disputed territories, and just sort of getting its own six-party house in order on these areas, which are almost all leftover symbolic economic issues, which would be, I think, a big contribution.
Well, the issue of rocks is not just a Northeast Asia or even Asian issue. I'm thinking in terms of Gibraltar, for example. So, these are tough issues the world over, and in terms of, they involve land and issues of sovereignty and national prestige. It's not easy. In some cases, they involve natural resources. In many cases, they don't. or they involve some mythical notion of what might be there, but in many cases they don't. But they do engender very strong emotions. There's no question about that, and we can think back to what was going on with Morocco and Spain just a few years ago. I'm not sure the six-party process is one that can get into, at this point, high-end issues of territorial disputes. I say high-end because they really involve, I think, extremely important national decisions that have to be made at the very top. But they can certainly, the six-party process, I like to think, for example, has helped create the mood music that has had the Japanese invite President Hu Jintao to Tokyo just a week ago. And I like to think that has been helpful as they discuss their bilateral issues, the fact that they're working together in the six-party process. So, whenever a multilateral structure is born, you have some big ambitions for that, for that fledgling structure, and you want it to fly as high as it can. But I think, realistically speaking, some of those tough territorial issues that you mentioned are probably going to have to be looked at bilaterally for some time to come.
Back here, yes, at the table on the left here, and then we'll go to the center and we'll move to the right. Yes.
Hi, Ambassador. My name is Wayne Chen from Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. You mentioned that the success of six-party talk in convincing the North Korean to unplug their nuclear reactor
And disable it.
Right.
And,
demonstrate the great potential of multilateral security management framework in the future that is able to solve future crises. So my question is, based on your distinguished foreign service in Europe, which is a place considered by many that is a demonstration of a classic example of establishment of a security cooperative mechanism, do you think Europe would be a model that provides productive tips for the Asian country to establish a mechanism or multilateral structure of their own in the future?
Every region of the world is different, but every region of the world has some similarities as well. And I must say, and I think I can speak better about this than as an American rather than a European, but I believe that some of the accomplishments of Europe in the post-World War II era are simply the most extraordinary accomplishments in our lifetime. I mean, in terms of countries that had no history of working together, countries that really had very deep enmities, bloodshed of the kind that is unimaginable, twice in the 20th century. I mean, just extraordinary. And yet these countries have managed a way to work together in a way that people who died on those battlefields of World War II and World War I could not have imagined. And really, if you look at the whole project of European integration, in many ways it is the product of the terrible cost that people paid through the centuries, and especially in the bloodiest century, World War